Good day, and welcome to Earth Medicine for the Soul. My name is Oakwalker, and together with my friend Stronghorse, we're here to offer you a good half hour of relaxing and thought provoking conversations regarding Earth loving traditions and practices. Have a seat, take a run or a walk, perhaps your gardening gloves, and settle in for a nice time. There we are. Now we're on. Let's go for it. Hello, everybody. I wanted to start today by talking about what I've been jokingly calling defense against the dark arts. And that's not really what this is going to be about, but it would be so much fun if it was. Anyway, um, there's some issues that my wife and I, Jenny, have been talking about a lot, and it has to do with dealing with the fact that there's a lot of darkness happening in the world, and it seems to be literally at this point in time seems to be winning, which is scary. And so I wanted to delve into that a little bit because my fundamental belief about that is that darkness cannot shine into light. And I think that's not just a spiritual fundamental principle, but it's also a physical and metaphysical fundamental principle that just describes the way that things are. And the way things are is that when you don't shine your light, then the only thing left is darkness. And when things are looking bad and things are looking dark around your life, if you don't make the decision and make the choice to shine your light, to go to source, if it will, to just move yourself into the light and say, here I am in the light. What have you got? I'm not going to sit in the dark and be miserable and let myself be a victim of these unlit places. I am going
Oh,
to
yeah.
become a light bearer at that point. Maybe that's what we should call this one is light bearing or bearing light,
Yeah.
because that's kind of what it
Yeah.
boils down to. And that's really we're at this point in this consciousness shift where it seems like people are either going to do that, they're either going to move toward the light and say, I am going to stand up and be a light bearer, or they're going to say, well, everything's fucked. I'm not doing this is bullshit. I ain't doing it. Fuck it. Let the dark win. I'm too tired. Bite me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going on, but I do want to take one issue with you on this, on what you just said.
Uh-huh.
I remember my teacher said several years ago that the different that it was about the planet was about eight, and this came from his elders. The planet
Uh-huh.
was about 80% dark and about 20% light, and and this is a result of millennia of uh, domination and control and patriarchy and yada yada yada, and so it's created a repeating pattern. It's created a loop, that has really been about one thing, and that is about certain segments of our society and certain individuals accumulating power, and
Yes.
and and their need for power is the need for self-validation.
Yep.
They found that the more they moved into the darkness, the more they were rewarded, and so it became a habit for them. They found that, wow, I mean, this works really great. I mean, I get whatever I need. I'm being protected. I've got these elite, wealthy people around me. Yada yada yada. I mean, we can go on forever about
Right,
that,
right.
but my issue is this. See, I think the tables have turned. I think that their protection's gone,
I
and
agree.
I think they know it, and I think they're panicking because they're everything has not been rolling their way the way that it's always been rolling their way, and
Uh-huh.
so now they're in a state of panic,
Yep.
because they're trying to figure out what the hell can they do to keep control. And so that's what you're seeing that we're interpreting as darkness is all this war and the crazy Trump stuff and I mean just on and on and on, and so we look at it and we think, well, and I've been guilty of this too, that
All of
the
us.
dark's winning.
Yeah.
I mean, I brought it up to my elders. I'm like, the dark is just raging. What's going on here? I mean, but I think really, but the truth, I think, is what's happening is they're being exposed,
Yep.
you know, and so more and more people are seeing that, wait a minute, this is, these guys have been pulling some shit on us for, for years,
Yeah, that's
you know?
millennia of gaslighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the more that they're seeing that, the more that they're starting to move into, some consciously, some subconsciously, into becoming a light bearer,
Uh-huh.
because they're like, wait a minute, I, I'm not going to play this game anymore, and I think that the more that you anchor yourself into that mindset, into that frame of reference, the more you will find yourself that things are starting to roll your way now.
Mm-hmm.
Things are starting to come into you, towards you,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people will be kind of surprised by this because they're just not used to it. They're not used to how can things be going my way here?
Right? What do
You
I do
know,
with that?
it's just, how did this happen? I don't, is somebody in retrograde? What's going on? You know, but I really firmly believe that. I mean, I really do. I think that where patterns of behavior before were constantly turning people into victims and into um, unwitting and unwilling pawns to this greater sort of massive dark thought forms that is turned now,
Uh-huh.
and we could probably have a long discussion about when and how that happened, but I really think that we're going to start seeing more and more things opening up and turning around and becoming part of, let's say, hope. Let's call it
Yeah,
hope.
good. Yeah.
Because I think the more hope you have, the more light bearer you become, because you're going, well, this is actually working.
Yeah.
you know, this is really actually working. This is something, huh? What? And I think that we're going to see that more and more. Or I really do. And I think a lot of these old patterns of creating hopelessness and
Hmm.
domination and victimology and all that, that's all starting to break down.
Yeah.
And it's, and they're in a state of panic over that. They really are, because they've had control over this whole human evolution for
Yeah.
thousands of years, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of my take on it. What do you think?
Well, it's there. It gets to be such an amazingly huge bag of worms. Um, Because you're right. Okay, so let's start from where you left off. Because yes, we have had millennia of gaslighting, and there's an inertia to all of that. There's an inertia to the good karma, and there's an inertia to the bad karma, and there's an inertia to my own bad habits of negative self uh, conversations with myself, my internal voicing that I use on myself, like, oh, why bother? Fuck it, nobody cares, nobody's gonna, I mean, so, why should I be a light bearer? Because it's not gonna shine on anybody, everybody's gonna run from it. And that gets to be this negative self-fulfilling prophecy of doom, right? And that
Right,
works, but
right,
that works the other way around too. And that when you start to negate that language, negate the negative, double negative, negate that language in your head, when you start to meet yourself in your authenticity, back to authenticity again, it always comes back to that, in that your authentic self is made of light, right?
right,
So when you're bearing the light, essentially all you're doing is throwing off the shields and the defenses that you've been carrying around all of this time to try and ward off the darkness that's been thrown at us by people who believe in terrible ideas like supremacy and superiority and, God ordained kings and aristocracies and stuff like that, which is all complete bullshit. So that becomes the actual that becomes the cure to the problem that we're now looking at. And I do seriously believe that there's a lot of new, what you would call hopeful energy. There's a lot of new light that I think is getting shone down upon this planet, which is giving us better energy, more impetus, and more resources to fight off, or not that, see, not, you don't fight off, to just radiate more energy toward the light, right? And if the planet really has been 80% dark and 20% light all this time, it's really a time that we balance that out. And that has to be a decision that you and I make, and everybody else on the planet has to make too.
Yeah, the thing comes to my mind on this is I want to use a sports metaphor. A lot of times, professional athletes will talk about how they're locked in, or they've kind of gone into the zone, or it's like
Yeah.
it's like and the term they use is I learn how to let the game come to me.
Oh, I like
Instead
that.
of them going out there and trying to take control, and I'm the great quarterback, and I'm supposed to do this and do that, and they end up like just getting frustrated because not everything's not working out for them. But once they stop and change and say, "All right, I'm going to let the game come to me," then they become a part of this whole. They're reading the whole energy that's going on all around
Hmm.
them, and and what that does is it opens up portals of opportunity. They're seeing guys that are open on, I'm using a professional football
Hmm.
metaphor, but they're seeing guys that are open, that they would have not seen before. They have
Right.
a broader scope of,
Yep.
a greater peripheral vision. All right. So that's got to start becoming everybody's modality. You
Yeah.
got to start becoming something about where, look, let's have an expectation that things are going to be opening up, and to start looking for those portals of opportunity so that the light can come in. And when it starts coming in, when the game starts coming to you, that's when you become a light bearer, because
Uh-huh.
you're realizing that, I'm actually maybe kind of good at this,
Yeah.
you know? and
That's
and never thought about that before,
uh,
but things seem to be working out. So I mean, that's my sense of it. I don't, the other side is they are the other side. They're the domination and control about, we've got to control everybody. We've got to lie to everybody. We've got to, make them do what we need them to do, and that's over, man. I'm telling you, it's
yeah,
over. And
I,
so
I
as we're
agree.
moving into this new age, a part of it's like expectation becomes vitally important.
Yep. And staying in the zone. So I think it's becoming easier for me from my own, literally my own experiential perspective over the last, say, 2 months. I'm feeling it much easier to walk in the zone, to be able to get from door number one to door number two, from the dorm at work to the cafeteria at work, and stay in the zone the whole way, right? Instead of, as opposed to just like mindlessly getting there and then going, oh, I should go back to the zone now, or, try and reattach. I I really like the way I've been feeling lately, and I think that it's part of that big shift of that more and more people are doing this, so it's things are less distracting. It's easier to stay in the zone because more people are doing it, and it's becoming it's having karmic inertia on the good side, right?
Yeah, I mean, on that same note, I mean, I find myself uh, quite often sort of pausing and stepping outside of time, and things sort of go into slow motion, and I'm thinking, wow, this is what optimism feels like.
Yeah. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it really, I get like, oh my God, what do I do this? I mean,
Uh-huh.
I mean, it really is sort of earth shaking, because we just haven't had that. I mean, we really haven't. And it's not something that, I mean, when you're in an 80-20 split, you can be doing the best you can to try to be optimistic, but the truth is the cards are stacked against you, man. I
Hmm.
mean, they are, and
Hmm.
it doesn't matter really how smart you are or how much talent you have or what. You're constantly swimming upstream. Well, now that's flipped.
Yeah.
Now it's changed. And so the trick is, how do we? I don't know if you've ever done any rafting, but I used to lead river up on Gunnison, Colorado. I used to help take people in camps down this Gunnison River, and you have to learn how to read the river. You need to know where the pools are, how to
Yeah.
hit these various rapids, or you're going to wipe everybody out, and so you learn how to move in the stream in order to become a part of the stream.
Yeah.
And any professional swimmer will tell you that the key to their success is they become one with the water.
Yeah.
It's almost like they go into fifth dimension in the water,
Yep.
you know, and they become a part of it. And I think you described that adequately and expertly when we were talking about surfing the other day.
Yep.
Then you said you got to go northwest, southeast. I mean, you have to have that whole thing encapsulated in your awareness for you to master surfing, right?
Yeah, you literally it's a within stage that encompasses all of the other directions and the feeling of being there and the intuition of what to do next and the whole being in the zone is really the perfect way to describe this because you're just tuned in. It's tuned in and and we have to choose to do this. And the other thing that was sprung to mind while you were talking is that in order, and it's going to seem very difficult to a lot of people. And one of the things that we can do to reduce the difficulty is that when you discover that you've drifted out of the zone for a minute, don't beat yourself up. I mean, you're not doing bad by not being in the zone. You're just going through the process, literally, of repeatedly reminding yourself and repeatedly just stepping back into the light, stepping back into the zone, stepping back into being attuned to the environment that you're in. And that's all earth medicine has ever been about. It's always
Right.
been, it's always been just be on the planet that you're on and live it, live in it, live on it, live within it, right? Because if I have a within dimension, that's my seventh dimension, then so does the planet. And once I go into mine, I'm in hers. And it's the same.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I saw a really good video this afternoon with on Facebook with this Native American. He's talking about these elders, and he says, they start the day off with one intent, and that is they go outside and they become one with the outdoors.
Hmm.
And they listen to the birds, they listen to the wind, they really just sort of project themselves out into the sun and the wherever they're at and take it all in.
Hmm.
And then they have gratitude. And they express gratitude very specifically because they know that you can't have gratitude expressed randomly because if you do, the return will be random. And so they're very specific in their prayers and they offer gratitude for the breath, for the life, for the sight, for, their families, for the fact they got food,
Hmm.
whatever comes to their mind,
Hmm.
but they're very specific about expressing their gratitude. And then the third piece was silence. They step into the silence, and it's not a meditation. It's just a practice of being. It's a practice of being there and knowing who you
Hmm.
are and what's going on. So all of that increases your awareness
Yep.
because it does exactly what you're saying. It connects that inner being to the outer being and to Mother Earth and to what's going on around you. And when that happens, you're grounded, man, in a place that you can literally consider as an ally. You
Yes.
know, you become you you connect in with Mother Earth, and she becomes an ally of yours.
Yes.
And so, when that happens, the stage opens. You know,
Yeah.
the whole panorama opens for you in ways that you can't even imagine,
Yeah.
because it's the it's like being in a relationship. You know, if you open yourself up to the relationship, if you're expressive, if you're constantly seeking to grow and to be accepting and to allow the other person in, then it takes on a life of its own.
Hmm.
And then that life that it takes on is what is is the gift. The
Yes.
gift isn't particularly the person or the individual that you're involved with. It's what is created out of that.
Uh-huh.
When you become aware of that and have gratitude for it, well, that third party, as you want to call it, it returns to you in ways that you could hardly imagine if you didn't do that. So it's a light bearing is really, I think, a way of creating a third entity around you that is your ally, and it provides you with sustenance, it provides you with purpose, it provides you with meaning, and it feeds your soul.
Yes. Yep. And you can't be a victim there. You're not a victim in that place. And that's a huge part of the whole equation because after so many millennia of control and dominance that we have experienced as a species, it's so deeply ingrained in our patterns. It's almost it's ingrained to an evolutionary scale. And that's why one of the most important things that I've been doing in my own healing lately and in my own practice has been the transgenerational types of healing that I've been doing because it's big. It's big and it's very powerful and it takes the victimhood out of the process, which is also the same thing that's happening anytime you're totally tuned in to to the energies of the earth, to the energies of the universe that you're occupying, because you can't be a victim there, and you have to shed that. All of those millennia of control and dominance are shed just so that you can be in that state of centeredness and peace. And we call it earth
Yeah, and
centeredness. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I think it's that when that happens, your soul awakes. Your soul,
Mhm.
and I mean, and I differentiate between spirit and soul.
Uh-huh.
Um, your spirit personality is completely separate from your soul. Your soul is a combination of various spirit personalities. So
It's a
to
story.
evolve and to transcend, I mean, it involves your spirit, but your spirit is part of your soul. But when you create what we're talking about here, your soul enlivens itself and awakens because you're now playing in its world.
Hmm.
You've
Hmm.
chosen to step into its world,
Yeah.
and so it knows now how to react with you.
Yeah.
It knows now that there's an exchange of energy here that is supportive, and it's pleasant, and it's willing, and you
Yeah.
find yourself in a place of newness constantly,
Right.
constantly. It's like it just one thing after the other keeps opening up, and you're like, wow, man,
Yeah.
I mean, if I look back way before I came on to the shamanic path, how closed in my world was,
Yeah.
and how um, suffocating it was, and how I was
Yeah.
struggling within it to just make some just to have it the most minute piece of meaning and purpose out of it, and never got it. It
Right.
wasn't until I stepped out onto the really into to Don Gennaro's land in my night on the Mountain of Fear and did my first ceremony out there in the desert, and,
Hmm.
and I realized, oh my God, there's a whole nother thing here that I never ever,
Right.
including Skinwalker,
Right. And but the
which is
cage was
which is a
always in
new
our own
thing.
right.
It was a little much for a real estate broker, but
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
yeah, you had trial by Skinwalker
that's
there.
right. I was I was telling that to my friend up at Denton, and he went, "Oh my God, you had that on your first ceremony?" I was like,
Right?
"Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, this is kind of scary." They're right. Now I know why they call it Night on the Mountain of Fear.
Right?
Oh my God. But the point being here is that people need to understand that, we could talk from now till next year about what opens up for you. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? I mean, because you got your personal dream, you got your collective dream, your planetary dream, and so as your dreaming increases, as your dreaming becomes more cognizant and more pertinent and
Hmm.
meaningful and purposeful, man, things start opening up for you that it's hard for us to describe, mainly because it's
Yeah,
it's very individualistic,
exactly.
Uh, but that's when you step into becoming a real light bearer, I think.
Yeah. Because there's oh boy, you just opened up another can of worms. But yes, um, I'm getting a little distracted because we're running out of time now. But that part of when you step into that, when you step into the reality of the, I'm going to use the term, the power of now, right? It's and everything is completely fresh all of the time. That is essentially the light bearer mode. It's the modus
Right.
operandi of a light bearer because it happens on a timeline really, which is unfortunate because there are things that don't. But you have this, you've got a wavelength and you're putting it out there and you every moment it is another radiant, pulse, if you will, until you're finally just not pulsing anymore and you're just radiating the whole time. But that has to happen from a sense of nowness and being right where you are at
And
the
I think
moment.
that's when hope takes on a multidimensional perception.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So,
Yeah.
should we end this one?
Yeah, I don't know how to do it, but you want to sign us off for there real quick?
Yeah. Just remember that only the Great Spirit is perfect.
Right. Yeah, we'll
And
talk about
we'll
that
do
one
the best
later.
we can until we get there. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, none of us are evil, but boy, it sure gets complicated at times. Thank you all. We will be checking in with you again later. Right now, we're going to sign off and say, I hope that you have the best possible day or night that you possibly can, and just relax and shine your light. Thank you so much.